welcome back to Darvanalee Designs Studio. For those that don't know, my name's Nicole Reed and today we are here for a super quick tutorial, scrunchies. Okay, if you are anything like my house, you will know that with 3 girls, we go through a lot of scrunchies. So I learned a long time ago how to make them. And every time we go off to Spotlight or a fabric store, we basically grab some different fabrics, as you can see here, maybe grab a remnant or something like that, and then we make a ton of scrunchies. Well, little Em keeps stealing my youngest daughter's scrunchies. So little Em is actually my granddaughter, and basically the 14-year-old is a little bit cranky because she keeps taking the scrunchies. So I had to make some, so I thought I would jump on today, hit the record button and share how I make them. They're super quick, they're super easy, and you'll be making a ton of them. So little Em has picked her fabric, and we have this gorgeous little fabric here. It's all pink. It was a fat quarter. You can get 4 out of a fat quarter, so quite versatile. Cheap to make as well. So if you've got tons of granddaughters or daughters, you'll be able to grab some of those not so pleasant fabrics for quilts, and you'll be able to use them for the little ones. So I've already cut my strips up. You will need a strip of fabric measuring 20 inches by 4 inches. So the short end will be 4 inches and the length will be 20 inches. You're also going to need some elastic today, and you need to cut a piece around 9 inches for that. You're also going to need a rotary cutter, some quilting rulers, some thread snips, and also some scissors to cut your elastic. And most of all, you're going to need some pins. You'll need to have some general sewing supplies such as a sewing machine and also an iron and an ironing pad. Alright, so as I said, I've already cut my strips. I've cut 4 out of the fat quarter, so I'm going to send 2 off with her to her mum's place and keep 2 here. I will make them a little bit later, but we'll get stuck into just making one, and I'll show you how quick it is. So I have cut my elastic, as I said, to 9 inches. I have also cut my strip measuring 4 inches in width, and it is going to be 20 inches long. Alright, so the first thing that you want to do, because this was a fat quarter, it is going to need a press. You can do that all before you cut it if you want, but we're just going to make it super quick and show you exactly how quick these are. Alright, so give that a press, and then basically you're going to take your strip of fabric and you are going to fold that in half with the right sides touching, and you're just going to pop a couple of pins in there. Okay. A little bit more than a couple. Alright, and up at this one end, you're going to fold this end down by about 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 an inch. I generally sort of go in between. I sort of just eyeball it. And then all I'm going to do is pop a pin in that end. Okay, so that's in place. And now what we're going to do is we're going to head over to the sewing machine, and we're going to stitch all the way along this long edge, and we're going to back stitch at the beginning and at the end. Now before you head to the sewing machine, make sure that your raw edges are touching, because it just makes for an easier sew if you do. If you find that they're moving apart a little bit or anything, just pop a couple of pins in and you'll be good to go. Alright, so let's head over to the sewing machine and stitch this down. Okay, so with your 1/4 inch foot and matching thread to your fabric, you can use a contrasting thread if you want to, that's fine. I tend to just do the matching because then that way you can't really see them, and the girls like them a bit better that way. So you're going to start with your needle in the down position, and as I said, we are going to do a back stitch at the beginning and at the end, and we're going to sew a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So if you don't know how to use one of these 1/4 inch seam allowance feet, so this one doesn't have a guide on it. Some actually come with a guide, so that makes it so really easy. You just butt your fabric up against that guide and you sew that through, and it'll give you an accurate 1/4 inch all the way. If you're like me and you don't have a guide, basically what you want to do, just on this side of the presser foot here, you can see there's like a little notch in that. That is the 1/4 inch mark here. So we want to line our fabric right up along the edge of the presser foot there. So you can see that I'm in a little bit, so I just want to come out, take my needle out of the down position and line that up. So you can't actually see you can't actually see the fabric coming out past the foot, so it's running right along that edge. And that is our stitch guide. It's a 1/4 inch. There are many other different things that you can use. I also, to keep it even more accurate, I actually have a line on my bobbin cover and also on the steel plate. You can just see here, there is like a little notch mark. So I know that my fabric has to keep in line with that, and that will keep it in line with that foot. So they're just some of the things that you keep in mind when you're actually doing a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Okay, so we do our back stitch, and I bet you I didn't do it at the beginning, so I will just go up. No, I didn't, because I was too busy talking. Alright, so I'll just go in and do a back stitch now. See, this is what happens when you talk too much. Grab your thread snips and snip those threads off. Okay, so now that you've got those threads all snipped off and you've stitched down the long side, we are going to turn our little tube in the right way. So just up in this end here, put your safety pin through and then just feed it in on itself. Okay, and we will just, as if we're threading elastic through, we're going to slowly pull that all the way along. Alright, so we just pull that through. Got our end there, and then we just pull that on itself. All right, so now we can just make sure that our 1/2 inch is still turned over. Okay, we're going to roll that seam. It can be a bit tricky at times. It gets easier as you get more experience with tubes and stuff like that and rolling seams. I mean, it's a scrunchie at the end of the day. You're probably not even going to see it, but it still makes it easier to work with. Okay, that's all pressed. Go all the way along your little tube. It's going to make a pretty scrunchie, this. Now pop your iron pad away. Grab your safety pin. Put that onto your elastic. I always use 2. That way I don't lose the other one. So what I will do down on this end here, I will actually just pin it to one side. And then I know that I'm not going to pull my elastic all the way through, which I have done many times. All right, the next thing you want to do is you just want to thread that through, making sure that your elastic doesn't twist or anything like that. And as I said, we just grab, like, so the kids will go and grab some cotton fabric or polyester fabric. Whenever we go to the fabric shop, they'll go and grab some fabric that they like, and then we'll just make a ton of scrunchies, and they last for a little while, so we don't have to go to the shop, because like, you go and buy a scrunchie at the shop, I don't know about anywhere else in the world, but here in Australia they're not exactly the cheapest thing. They usually are about $4 or $5. Sometimes you might be lucky and find some cheap ones and you'll get 3 or 4 on a little card, but they're few and far between, and especially if they're handmade as well. So we've threaded our elastic through, so now all we're going to do is we're just going to tie a simple knot here. I don't generally sew them over. I have more problems than not with elastic a lot of the time with my machine. It just doesn't really like it. So I'm just going to tie a simple granny knot, not too big, and give that a really good tug. Then I'll just snip off those little bits. And if sometimes the elastic can give in them as well, so I'll just unstitch it, unpick it, and then basically all I do is just replace the elastic. All right, so what you're going to do now, you've got your raw edge. You're going to slip that in and make sure that that's sitting nice and flat. Now, you want to make sure that it's sitting nice and flat, because we're going to stitch this close with the sewing machine. So we're just going to top stitch that close, doing a little bit of a back stitch at the beginning and at the end. Make sure that you've got all your ruffle out of the way so it's sitting nice and flat, and then you can fluff that up once we've done it. All right, so we're going to head over to the sewing machine. We're just going to do 1/8 of an inch, so as close, 1/8 of an inch or a little bit closer, as close as you can get to the edge of that fold just there. Okay, and you can see that that's sitting nice and flat there. So to make sure that it stays in place, I'll just pop a pin in at the top here, and also at the bottom. Just go in the opposite way so I can get it out as I'm sewing. Okay. And don't stress, if you go over the elastic, that's fine. It'll just hold the elastic in place. We've moved that knot out of the way, so we're not going to sew on that. Okay, so if you can feel your knot there, just move your elastic around a little bit more, then insert it back in. But just move it off to the side, and then that way your machine's not going to bang that knot, and it's not going to break a needle or anything like that. All right, so off to the sewing machine we go. Okay, so we're just going to do 1/8 of an inch, and I just have a look at the top of my machine where my needle's going to sit, and I can see that that's going to just catch it at about 1/8 of an inch. So now all I'm going to do is do a back stitch, put my needle in the down position, and then I'm going to stitch that 1/8 of an inch. Now I'm sorry if my hand is in the way, but I've sort of got to hold it. But you can see there, and I'll show a little bit closer in a moment. Get that pin out, and then I'm just going to come down and do a back stitch, and that's it. Pull that out, get rid of our threads, and I will show you in just a second. Okay, so there we go. It's all stitched together, and we can now fluff that out. And we have a cute little hair elastic. Little M will be very pleased. There we go. Our little scrunchie. I sort of just roll them around a bit, and that. There we go. A cute little scrunchie. Didn't take any time at all, but that is it. And you can get 4 out of a fat quarter. All right, so thank you so much for joining me today. I do hope you enjoyed making these little scrunchies. As I said, they're super quick and easy to make. Give us a thumbs up down below. Don't forget to leave us a tip in the tip jar. You can see that little graphic going across, and the link is down below. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe and hit the little bell icon beside it, and then that way you won't miss out on any future uploads. Again, thank you so much for joining me today. Have a great day, everybody, and I'll see you all again next time. Bye for now.